Hello, this is Ed Rigsbee, and welcome to another edition of Raw and Unedited. This is the place that what we do for you, the association executive, is we bring you insight, innovation. We bring you tips, tactics, training, tools, and solutions to make your life better as an association executive, dealing with your staff and volunteers and all the things you have to do. Have you ever, now I've had a lot of association executives say this to me, I just don't feel like I get the respect from the members. Have you ever thought that? Well, if you have, I have got the most amazing guest today, Jess Todtfeld. He is a media skills expert. He's been on all the top shows. He's even got a Guinness Book record for being on like 122 radio shows in a day. I mean, the guy is amazing. And so, Jess, let me pose this question at you to kick this thing off. I mean, if an association executive, he or she's not getting the kind of respect that they should from their board, from their membership, might it be that when they're presenting at their board meeting or their annual meeting, they could do a better job?
You put it very delicately, Ed, which is, look, they're human beings, right? And
Sure.
Most people, you and I know this in the world we're in, seeing lots of other speakers and us being speakers, that people who don't do that for a living need some help. Now I'm trying to be delicate with it as well. And it's very important. So for them to, this comes from the presentation skills side, for them to realize that they need to up-level what they're doing. They need to tell more stories, connect better with their audience, be more interesting. That takes work.
Now, I mean, for a person that their life is running an association and not being the face, so to speak, of the organization, what have you seen? Just again, we don't want to pick on any one person, but what the heck? No. What have you seen generally when you've been in organizations, when you've spoken at meetings and you see the association executive get up and talk to the group? What have you seen as far as some of the mistakes that have been made and some of the things that they could do a little bit differently or a little bit better to give them more power, to help them to be seen as the expert, not as the secretary?
Yeah, no, I would say the starting place is this. It's not about you, it's about them. The more you make it about them, the more everybody likes you. This is how it really works, right? Yeah. So, and we do it when we go out in front of people. If I start making too much about me or I'm worrying too much about me, you're in the wrong zone. It's not going to work well. So you got to find out how do we best support them? So one is not taking too much time. If you take an hour to do 3 minutes worth of material that you need to share with people, they're going to be annoyed after 10 minutes and think a meeting was a big waste of time. I mean, I'm imagining a smaller meeting, but that happens in big meetings too. If you go up there and you don't have your notes together, oh, what do you mean, Jess? They saw me peek at some bullet points and then talk to them. Yeah, that's okay. They'd rather you do that than to come out and bore people to death.
Sure.
And I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been
Yeah. I mean, it just, and I was watching before we had the interview. I was watching one of the clips on your website that I thought it was hilarious, and it was the clip where, and I forgot the names, but it was where the guy that was on Hardball just got spanked, and it was the whole video interview around it. But the guy,
The Daily Show. Yeah, I was a guest on The Daily Show.
But he came out the winner because, I mean, he became a YouTube sensation. But, I mean, it's like...
And I don't think anybody tuning in today wants to be a YouTube sensation for the wrong reasons. So we're weaving back and forth between when you're physically in front of people or even right now where we're virtually in front of you. Sure. By the way, I closed a couple of applications. I don't know if it had a lag, but it should be good right now. It's unedited, everybody.
It is raw.
It's raw. It's super raw. So I don't know if it was fuzzy a second ago. But, in both situations, nobody wants to go viral for the wrong reason. No one wants to be that person on United Airlines who was dragging the person off the plane.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, whatever your version, everyone tuning in your version of that. So the best thing is to do it right. Like I said, you want to support those people. You want to pay attention to time. You want to pay attention to what does everybody need. One way to find out, ask them, maybe in advance. How about sending out an email in advance with an agenda? And I'm imagining, again, a smaller meeting. Obviously, if we're talking about yearly meeting or something like that, you better stick to your agenda. You better not be doing this like it's what year you think PowerPoint came out? I don't know, the 80s or something like that. 1984, I'll say. Reading off the PowerPoint. This is what I'm doing. I'm turning my back. You're literally turning your back on people. Don't do that. And they're like, oh, my notes are over here. Everybody's thinking, well, then you should have just emailed it to us. This is a waste of time. That's why there is that problem that you're talking about that we see at all meetings that we go to. They're going to be some people who rise to the top and people think, oh, well, they're just talented. Maybe, but maybe they also took a little bit of time to do these few extra things.
Gotcha. So like with body language, you know, I see frequently men in particular standing on a stage with their hands down in front of them, almost like they're protecting their, no, I'm in front.
Oh,
down, like down, like they're protecting their, you know what's.
Right.
What's the best for, you know, to help, let's, and it may be the same for a man or a woman, but for a man and maybe for a woman, you know, when you're on stage,
yes,
and if, you know, I'm not talking about you're grabbing the lectern and white knuckling it, but, you know, standing there and trying to be relaxed and look authoritative. What is or are some of the best positions?
So I'm going to make it super simple so that everybody can walk away today with something they can practice.
Okay.
And this comes from the presentation training side of my business. You're right. This is what we see at so many meetings. They're holding onto the lectern.
Yeah.
75% of their body is blocked.
Yes.
So we only have this, and they're literally a talking head. Mm-hmm. And the speaker usually likes it because they can put their notes here. Oh, that's good for one person in the room, but terrible for everybody else. So get away from the lectern. Write that down, everybody. Get away from the lectern.
Get away from the lectern.
Interesting. People will love you more if you came out and you moved around. And I've been at a lot of conferences and events where they said it's right over there. Well, is there any way that I can move around? Well, if you want to be the one guy, yeah, I want to be the one guy. And they're so grateful. Something different happened. You mean you came up and looked us in the eye and chatted? So that's another piece to write down. Eye contact. Look at people for a beat while you're talking and look throughout the room. People really feel warmer and a little bit closer to you. And when it comes to, I'll just give this real quick here. Body language is just three things. Three things. One thing that we want to do is we want to move our head. Right now, I'm only moving my head as if I were holding onto the lectern, and I'm not only a talking head, but I'm a bobblehead.
Okay.
So we got to do something else. The next would be to include hands.
Okay.
Just allow no special hand gestures. Move your hands because that's how we all communicate as human beings. So allow them. On video conference like we're doing today, if I'm too close to the camera, they're enormous. So we'll keep them back here. I'll do my best. I talk with my hands a lot. I'm from New York, but everybody I've worked with talks. Even when they say I don't talk with my hands, that's what you do. I'm like, are you watching yourself? And then the third is body. So we have head, hands, and third is body, which is allow your body, this part to move around and move on the stage. Go over here. Look at these people. Go here. Head, hands, body, and you are so far ahead of everybody. It's ridiculous.
I want to talk to you about some media crisis things, but before I do that, another thing that's, I guess it's a pet peeve with me, and I hear a lot of association and society members talking about, oh God, that panel discussion was boring.
Yeah.
And some tips. that maybe, and I realize that training tends to be the answer. But with these association people, they don't always have the opportunity. So if I'm an association executive, and one of the things that at my meeting I've got is some kind of a industry panel. What are some of the things that I should communicate to them that I'd like them to do in preparation, number one, and then while they're participating, number two, to make panel discussions
less boring? Well, I'm going to give a shout out to one of our speaker friends, Brian Walter, who does a program called Extreme Panels.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the audience for that, actually included me as part of his mock panel. And he had a couple of really interesting things that I think is just perfect for this answer. So I'm going to include some of his stuff here and give him a shout out. But he said, what usually happens is the person who's moderating asks the first question, and person number one talks for a certain amount of time. Mm-hmm. And it could be 4 or 5 minutes. And then the other people in the panel start doing panel math, which is they're like, oh, well, then I'll speak for 5 minutes. And then the audience does panel math, which is, well, if there's 5 people and that guy talked for 5 minutes, that's 25 minutes. I think this is a 30-minute session or it's a 60-minute session. So we're going to get 2 good answers out of everybody. That's terrible, right? So he has it where he's done it as he has 20 different techniques, but he has different games. So one is, all right, everybody, scale of 1 to 10. This, that, you'll ask them a question. They're like a 4, a 3, a 7, a 6. Great. Okay, scale of 1 to 10. This. Da, 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 da. And then he has a choose your own question. You get this question or that question, so it's like a game. Which one do you choose? And then he does a thing with the audience. The audience gets to choose, and they either hold up whether it's a flag of this color or that color, or they get a thing they can flip over. That's fun because the audience gets to. So when I was on the mock panel, I had the question about my expertise, and then there was something funny about my personal life. They wanted to know what reality show that I've watched. Mm-hmm. So I was forced to say something about it where I've seen a lot of them. I was forced to say hoarders. Apparently I'm hoarding hoarder shows. I watch it and there goes the whole afternoon because you're watching and you say, so anyway, it was more interesting, right? And he was able to get more in there. You were also asking about prepping the panelists, which is another important thing. So one is to have a moderator who can create little games like that. Another game of his is Would You Rather? Mm-hmm. Would you rather this thing, which relates to the association and something that happens, or would you rather this? Well, I'd rather this. And you get something like 10 seconds or 15 seconds to answer why. And they realize it's like a game show. He also did speed rounds, before I forget, speed rounds where it was something like 10-second answers only. Oh, he did one where it was 1-sentence answers only. And it was really interesting because he came up with 5 or 10 questions about one idea and rattled them off. And then we got so much value out of that. Mm-hmm. I've started to incorporate this into panels I lead. But the last thing is just the people themselves who are on the panel should have a conversation with the person leading to know that this is going to happen, and even provide the person interviewing them. I always think of everything as an interview, with great fodder to say, hey, here's something so you don't have to poke around in the dark that we might want to mention. And when both parties know, it's much faster.
Yeah. I guess if we're doing shout outs, we should probably, a couple of our other colleagues, Kristen Arnold, who is a past National Speakers Association president, and she wrote a book on making panels work. And then another of our colleagues, our friend Graham Davis, who is the author of the book, The Presentation Coach, out of London. Now, what do you think about this? And it'd be awesome if you kind of disagreed, but one of the things that Graham talks about—
I'll purposely disagree.
I'm sorry?
Just to make it interesting, I'll purposely disagree. Yeah.
Well, that's the point. See, one of the things that Graham does a lot talking about is like a panel moderator to try to get people to have different opinions, because talking about and it's kind of how do we do this, because I mean I've had a hell of a time. I was doing a panel in Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago, and I did like gazillions of hours of work, but still trying to, and I have people that had different opinions, but then when they get to that meeting, and then they tend to want, oh yeah, I agree with Bill. Oh yeah, I agree with Susan. And what do you have any ideas on how to get people to, come on, start duking it out a little bit so it gets interesting?
Well, as far as picking the panel, instead of just, well, these seem like logical people, is there the person?
I'm talking about when you're stuck with the panel.
Oh, when you're stuck.
Yeah, because then
sometimes I'll throw in, if you have the person who's been in the association for 30 years,
mm-hmm.
that person on there. There's the person who is the young hotshot. There's the person who's the maverick. You can get a lot of different types of people on the panel.
Okay.
But going with your premise, okay, you're stuck with it. You just showed up.
Okay.
Having a little bit of an interview with them beforehand to figure out how they differ. And then I think building on what you just said, unfortunately, I'm going to build on it, which is, instead of disagree with you, which is,
that's okay.
If the moderator says, I want to find some areas where you guys can all, disagree and take it in different directions.
Sure.
What about this topic? At least they understand that that's part of how it makes it more interesting, as opposed to trying to be polite and this and that, to say, we know we picked this, so we'll have different points of view. Mm-hmm. So I always find, going back to my TV producer days, I was a TV producer for 13 years. We called it the pre-interview. Have some pre-interview. You can do it on the phone. You can use something like we're using Zoom right now, which is a great tool. It's like Skype. Just have a conversation beforehand. You can't do that? Okay, well then 10 minutes before you go out there. Write down notes. But let them know so they won't be too polite, and they'll have some fun with it. And even as the moderator, you can say, all right, we're going to have some fun here. I'm purposely going to ask questions where we get them to disagree, and it's all okay. All right. Now the audience is excited that, the in conflict is drama.
Yes.
Said it, Plato or somebody said that. We want that drama. We want excitement.
Yeah. Got it. Very good. Hey, Jess, let's shift gears just a little bit and talk about, if an association's executive finds themselves in a situation where, their industry's in hot water, or even, who knows, maybe their association or something, before they get in front of media, I realize that, that you do two things very, very well. You do presentation training well, and you do media training pretty well. And I know you've got books on media training A to Z and presentation training A to Z. But I'm not going to ask you.
The latest one, those one have gotten a little older, is Media Secrets. I happen to have had it just sitting right over there. But anyway, as you said.
But I won't ask you for tip Z. But here's the thing. I think that I've seen people on interviews just get themselves into hot water, and I've seen people do a great job. I've seen people that like they avoid answering the questions, typical politician. And what are some of the things that if an association executive finds themselves either representing their industry or their association in a media crisis situation, what are some things that they should really make sure that they do and or don't do?
Well, I'm going to share as my lead-in for this. There's a bigger problem than crisis.
What's that?
Association leaders. The bigger problem is it's a non-crisis interview. They go out, they do a so-so job. Nobody really gets yelled at, but nothing good happens as a result. And it was a total and utter waste of time.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of like a tree fell, but nobody was there, so nobody heard it.
Yeah. Well, I did an interview. Great. We're not going to post it anywhere, or we forgot to ask, or where I'm going with this is, you didn't have any calls to action. Mm-hmm. We don't know what we can do, meaning we, the audience, to support that association.
Okay.
Should we go to an event? If I'm a right fit, do I just look and say, nice, and then stop paying attention? So I'm always concerned with what happens after the interview.
Okay.
And when we begin with the end in mind, taking a little phrase from Stephen Covey, and we know where we're going. We know how this can work for us. So yes, everyone thinks interviews, hot water, that people should be really trained or get some of the techniques. You get some of them from a book, Media Secrets over there. But really, when it comes to the interviews in general, here's what we got to do. We got to begin with the end in mind. What do we want? If I'm an association, I want to either drive more attendance to events, or I want to get more members.
Sure, absolutely.
And I probably want to keep members happy too, and they see the association. So probably those three were the first two being the big ones. So what do I want to, at some point, authentically bring up in an interview? I want to say, we have this amazing event happening this summer, this winter, whenever, where we're going to be doing this, and this is what our people learn. This is, how we support it. And it's such a great group. So at least whoever's watching it, watching, reading, listening, will take that away. And most people will not see this interview when it runs the first time. It's when the interview, and you were referring just a second ago to the Daily Show interview of me, where they were, teasing me about the old book, what is Z? And then they were able to have a funny book, aha, we have our own version. So it was cute where we were playing back and forth. And some prep and planning went into getting them on my side, knowing what I want to have. I actually wanted something like that to happen as the result. I actually said to them, so if you Google my name, Jess Todtfeld and Daily Show, you'll see that interview. And I had said, wouldn't it be funny? I said, you guys are the people who are the experts on funny, but if the person interviewing me and they came to my studio said, I have a book to promote, and you can pick a funny title or something like that, and then I'll comment, and it's your call, whatever you like. They'll, that's fantastic. So because I presented it in a way where I'm not forcing anything on them, they went and did exactly that. And that lives on. Actually, I did that in December of 2009. I'm coming up on 10 years, and still people see it and comment and like it. So for everyone who's listening, you got to go in. So you said do's and don'ts. You have to have a clear idea of what you wish you could say. Write it down. It's part of a messaging exercise that I have where people look, and this is just one piece of that exercise, and they say, wow, if I just said half these things, this would be an amazing interview. But nobody ever does that. Normally, they just kind of wing it. Winging it is a little shaky as a system. So I don't usually...
Kind of like we're doing on this video, just winging it.
Well, you know what? You made it work. You came up with a reason, and I watched a bunch of your other videos and interviews, and you're like, I screwed that thing up, but that's what it is raw, and it makes it fun. And actually, and as an interviewer, so sometimes I train interviewers, I notice you keep it moving as best you can, because some people could be, maybe me, long-winded, but we all try to our best and have a good interviewer. So as far as just a couple other little techniques, they got to get their messages down. These are do's. Their messages down. What do they really want to say? They need to have some techniques for being able to not dodge questions, but guide the interviewer. This is the authentic way of doing it to where they should be going. If the interviewer asks a question that's not right or makes no sense, they have to guide the interviewer. Well, actually, that you would think that's a big problem, but this is the bigger problem. That's the way to guide, and then everybody's happy. And there's some other techniques with sound bites, but the biggest don't wing it. Don't go out there, too self-inflated that you think, it's fine every time. And if you don't have a call to action, people don't know what they should do next. They will not do anything. Got it.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Hey, Jess, when we're talking about that, we hear the term soundbite, and especially during election cycles. I mean, soundbite. Could you address soundbites a little bit, and just how maybe people either can create their own soundbites, or if you don't think they're a good idea, why? I would like to get your take on the basic idea of soundbites.
Yes, and people think it's just speak in short, halting ways, like George Costanza's father. That's an old reference, but it's not just be quick and snappy, because there's no reasoning for that. What we want to do is, so in print, they're called quotes. Print reporters are looking for quotes. For TV, when they extract quotes, they call them sound bites because it's a bite-sized morsel of sound. And same for radio if you're listening and you only hear a couple of quotes. So this is about creating the perfect quote. That's what the thing is. So if they're only looking, say a print reporter, for certain quotes, how can you create the perfect quote in advance and make it irresistible so they say, that's my quote? Because my experience when I was a producer was we would take a tape and go in the edit room. They still use tape. They stopped doing that now. And we put it in, and the editor and I would both say, I know it when I hear it. I don't know what I'm listening for, but I'll know it when I hear it. And we would hear it and both go, oh, that's it. You know, somebody I heard yesterday who was talking, and I think they were on TV, they said something like, it's a tsunami of change, or it was a tsunami of, and they use that as the analogy going into what they were talking about. That's one of the techniques, tsunami, which is analogy. So the tsunami wasn't a real tsunami. And, you know, they said, you know, a firestorm, you know, whoa, what an analogy for us to latch onto. And of course that, you know, gets you excited.
Sure.
So what I did was I reverse engineered. I said, what were we looking for? I reverse engineered, came up with this list of 14 elements. So some of them are using an analogy. You can also use pop culture references. I have a clip I sometimes play where the guy says, you know, what was the problem in our industry? This happened and that happened. The other thing, it was a perfect storm. So perfect storm, the book, the movie, all that. So it could be pop culture references. Surprisingly, cliches are one of the techniques that would help you get your exact phrase chosen, even though we've been taught in 7th grade English to never, never, ever use cliches, but journalists can't stop themselves quoting.
Yeah.
If you use one. So, and not a really cheesy one. If it's a cheesy one, just don't do it. But instead of the answer you were already going to give, so you're talking, you're allowed to still talk in paragraphs, but then all of a sudden you come up to this answer and you say, look, the bottom line is blank, or the end of the day, at the end of the day, blank. And they print that whole thing. I see it every day. When I do my classes, I actually give everybody that day's paper. And I always say, we're going to look in there. And I promise I did not call USA Today to tell them to put my stuff in there to make me look good.
Sure.
But sure enough, it's all in there. So all of you can go search USA Today or your local paper, and you're going to see some of those other ones, absolutes, speaking in absolutes instead of being wishy-washy predictions. There are a number of those elements, and it will help you get that perfect answer. So it's just a 5% tweak on what you're already going to say, but helps you get in there. So it's pretty cool.
Can we go back to pop culture a little bit? Because
while we do pop culture, and I don't know if you have it where the screen goes back and forth, I'm going to put on some TV makeup to show people.
Okay.
I don't know if you have it where they see both of us at the same time. I can't get it on you, Ed. But I'm going to tell you why I'm very quickly, and I won't forget pop culture.
Paint some hair on me,
so you don't get shined. They actually make some sort of like this powder that you can put in, and I think you look fine the way you are. You look silly. And here's why I'm doing this.
Okay.
People from associations, women usually understand the magic of makeup, but even just now, many of you noticed that just using basic foundation that matches my skin tone, and yes, they make ones that they make concealer, which is supposed to have a slightly different color here. But what I find is if I just put on a little bit of powder, the difference, so I did the whole beginning part, raw and unedited, unmakeupped. I didn't even paint abs on my chest today, which I don't.
Well, I'm kind of excited to see what color lipstick and eyeshadow you're going to use.
No, this is it.
Oh,
this is all you need to do.
No lipstick?
That's it. Foundation that matches your skin tone. Okay. Hopefully I put it on evenly because I'm looking at it. Yeah, and what happens is no 5 o'clock shadow anymore, even though this is early in the day. Okay. Dark circles gone, shininess from a couple of lights around here. And I don't look like I just, woke up from being up all night partying.
Got it.
There we go.
That's fascinating because, something, my guess is probably most people, including me, are apprehensive. I mean, the only time I ever wore makeup, you're going to laugh at this, back in the late 80s, I was, the human potential movement. I was in the life spring courses.
Yeah, yeah.
And my stretch was I had to be Tammy Faye Baker. So, so
For
got the
some
wig,
act out.
got the wig, got the gown, and had the gals do the makeup. And actually, the guy that was a trainer didn't even recognize me. Because where'd this chick come from? And so, yeah,
Whoa.
If I ever wanted to be a
That's how
cross-dresser,
convincing you were. But it's funny you bring that up, because when I bring this up to top level executives and CEOs and say, you look better if you have makeup on, they'll just kind of, yeah, I'm not going to do that, but I'll nod at you. But if I take 1 minute and I just do that, without a doubt, they'll stop and say, whoa, because they're looking at the screen and they see all of a sudden I look much better. And they usually turn to somebody. I'll usually say, as I take a little sip here, I usually say, bring somebody to the local drugstore who knows more about makeup than you, and get them to just help pick out. All you need is basic foundation and a little sponge to rub it on at the end. That's it. 1 minute, or you can just look like you were out at bars all night. So
is that going to cover up the rosacea I have?
Oh, that will. Red? Wait, when I just did my face, this is a funny thing. I don't notice it. Your lighting actually is good for you right now today. If I forget to put it on my nose, now I understand that phrase. Like I gotta go powder my nose.
Yeah.
I get it. But anyway, this is.
So the lighting's good, huh? Maybe it's because I've got a LED floodlight across my desk shining right in my eyeballs. And so I
have one on that behind me on this camera with a teleprompter.
Okay.
It's not on right now because I have one with a little softbox. And by the way, for everybody who's tuning in today, you can find a spot in your office or make a spot that would be good for video conferencing. And I will admit, this is not the actual window scene of New York City. The real window is actually over there, and it's not very exciting. That's way more exciting.
It's just a rooftop, huh?
It's just, I'm looking at a wall practically over there. Yeah. And then some press clippings, the Guinness record, a camera and stuff. So this is a great spot, to do it in. Look, Ed has his book over there. And
actually, when you bring that up, if I really wanted to be authentic with people, I'd show everybody all my Mickey Mouse stuff. My wife calls it my altar to Walt Disney.
I love that. I love that.
I collect.
We have a fun side.
I collect Mickey Mouse stuff. So if you want to ingratiate yourself to me, provide me with Mickey Mouse things, or the other thing is pink flamingos. I buy those just to drive my wife crazy. So
Really?
Well, yeah, it's oh God, I'm not going to go get it, but I've got sitting over. I've got an actual flamingo hat that my son gave me.
And you want to know what? That, I don't know if it's made it into your speeches. These pieces of ourselves, and I'm saying this really to everybody listening.
Yeah.
When we allow interesting things about ourselves to show up, if you stop and I say I have this whole pink flamingo thing, part of it's because I love it. The other part is how much it upsets my wife.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
And you have it on the slides, or people who win, get an answer right, something with a flamingo. There are ways to make everyone who's listening to make all of these things interesting, and then you stand out. I'm imagining at one of these association meetings, they're like, "Oh, remember that guy with the flamingos?" And I got the flamingos still on my desk, and
that's
how
an interesting idea. I never thought of that. Something. Hold on. Now that you bring that up,
I started something, Ed.
Well, so
you have a flamingo budget?
Well, so here's a flamingo that my son and daughter-in-law got me.
Like a bobblehead.
Yeah, like they got that in Hawaii. I just got all kinds of stupid little things like that. And then I've also got here, Lindsay Adams, he and his wife Debbie from Australia.
Another interesting speaker, yeah.
Yeah. I can't even get it. Oh, here. Darn it. Well, I've never opened up the package, but there's a flamingo pin. So it's So I guess you're right. I mean, I really hadn't thought much about that, but that's kind of a branding thing that, if um, being, what is it, being vulnerable enough maybe to
Right.
let people see who we are.
And sometimes it takes years for us to get to that point. Um, my wife used to tease me that I would say, because I actually have a different New York City backdrop on that whole wall,
Mhm.
but I would knock and I'd say it's a genuine fake backdrop of New York City. So she'd say, why you tell everybody? What's the point? And I said, it's like what you just said, it's an opportunity to be real.
Yeah,
Yes, I think it looks interesting than just the wall.
sure,
Um,
absolutely.
so, but yes, that's something else that, but I'm going to add a phrase here that a friend of mine who's a leadership speaker and writer, Sylvia LaFair, she has a great phrase where she says, opening your heart is not spilling your guts. And
Okay.
she has these events where people
Tell me
really
more.
well, in Getting Real, you shared with me the thing about flamingos.
Okay.
Okay, cool. If Ed was like, let me show you the places I have rashes and it's
Oh,
spreading,
okay.
and it's like, once when I stole somebody's whatever, I don't know, it'd be like, whoa, like why am I, it's too,
TMI.
it's too. So we
Yeah.
figure, where's the line? So it's
Yeah.
like you're opening some of yourself. I mean, she
Okay.
says that because people open up a little bit more in this leadership program about themselves. But it's like, at a certain point, you're like, they just crossed the line. I didn't need to know that.
So bringing that back to an association executive, to help them to, let's just say, have more credibility with their members, help them to be seen more as a leader. How could an association executive use that idea about being a little bit more authentic or sharing a little bit about it themselves?
So I think it's figuring out what piece of me can I share.
Okay.
A friend of ours, Jeffrey Hazlett, he runs this program called C-Suite
Hmm.
for C-Suite executives.
Right.
He likes to talk on social media about how he loves scotch and how he loves bacon. And
Okay.
and he brings it back up as a theme. And as his business evolved, he has, instead of just, hey, it's some sort of networking event, it's a scotch tasting event.
Okay. Okay.
And then he's actually gotten sponsors to come and they bring all the scotch and they pay for other stuff. So he does that. And then they hand it out. I went to one of these events recently, so it's fresh in my mind. These platters of like the best cuts of bacon you've ever had
Oh,
ever.
really?
Yeah,
Really?
so I looked and I said,
Oh, wow.
is that bacon? They're handing out. They're like, yeah, it's like his thing. So I mean, when you said the association executives, it could be a little thing, could be the fact, let's say somebody loves fishing, right?
Mhm.
Maybe they use little fishing analogies. They weave it in a fun way, and
Okay.
and it becomes memorable. People like them. You become likable because you're real.
Mhm.
And yeah, look, I would say look for opportunities. Look, if in doubt, leave it out. If you
Yeah.
say I feel uncomfortable, then don't do it. You don't have to, but it's little ways, to share.
So let me tap this well of knowledge while I have it to tap. So I enjoy doing cigar reviews. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find quite a number of cigar reviews. And some of my colleagues and confidants have said, Ed, that might not be too good of a thing to have on your YouTube channel with your strategic alliance videos and your member recruitment, videos and the other things you have. And, and it's kind of like, yeah, okay, I might aggravate somebody because I like cigars, but it seems to me, and that's why I'm going to ask you, that it's kind of worth it to, okay, if I alienate one person, but I ingratiate, five, is that a bad thing? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I lean more to where you're going with it, which is I think it would be different. So say take marijuana, which is becoming legal in many states. That's
California, where I live.
what is that? Oh, right.
Hey, California. Yep. Yep.
That's right. And so it's legal there already.
Yeah.
So it's still a little controversial. It would be different if we saw reviews about how you love smoking marijuana everywhere or whatever. That would be like, really? Like, is it going to come to our bit? Is that going to get weird? Yeah, that would
That'd
may
be
not
fun.
be
Yeah.
so great. But cigars is kind of like, it's kind of like sipping wine. It's not like you're taking in, you're chain smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
The way I met Ed, everybody, is Ed has an event that he does we're part of a speaker association, and he has an event that he does where it's got basically a cigar theme, but it also raises a lot of money for charity. And people come and they have fun, and we have drinks too. And people don't even have to smoke cigars. I would even say the smallest group probably does that. But it's got a cool theme to it. So you took something that you liked, which I didn't know before I met you. You took something that you liked, and you said, "How can I use this for good, or how can I, do something bigger with it?"
Sure.
And I know a bunch of us have pushed you and said you should take this to all your associations because it's this thing that happens in the evening. And I think Ed said, I got enough on my plate. I have so much going on and going everywhere and speaking. I don't know, it'd be a lot, but I'm planting the seed out there because these evening events that you do, which is, it really runs, it's like it's a hospitality suite essentially. And it runs, most of the days of the event, is just a lot of fun. Everybody is excited by it. Everyone's relaxed and mingling and probably doing the best networking, of an entire event. So take something that you love.
Yeah. Now we built a real good community. Our mutual colleague, Michael Goldberg, who does knockout networking, every time we get together, he's pounding me that I should take the Cigar Pig concept to other trade associations. I think, and the thing, like I've told Michael and others, it would be so expensive to do because of the amount of time it takes. That
right.
I really question whether anybody would pay for it. I do it at the National Speakers Association because it's my industry, and it's a conference I've been going to for 30 years, and yada yada yada.
Right.
But it's a lot of work. So taking it back to bringing our personal, this is a fascinating discussion as far as bringing part of us, part of our person out when we speak. Is there, I guess the question, it still gets back to that, trying to understand that line between, okay, where is it interesting to the audience, or where am I like, the grandparent that pulls out 47,000 pictures of the grandkids and
right.
kids, or I pull up my shirt and show them my rash. I mean,
right.
Trying to understand that line, and is there any way that you could help people with having a little bit better understanding of that line to okay, what's really valuable, authentic, and that's TMI, too much information.
I'm going to tell you the best tool. This is what I use when I train people, but people can do this themselves. The best tool for getting out of your own body and seeing what you're like is a video recording device. We all have one in our pocket that's there all the time. Sometimes I like to say in our pants because that's funnier. We have a recording studio in our pocket. We're keeping it together, everybody today. And you can hand it off to somebody and say, just record me. You don't have to, if you don't have a whole video camera set up, which is, pretty cheap online, even just to get a whole video camera. And then you must watch yourself. And most people say, oh, I don't know.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh, I'm watching myself.
Right. Oh, I don't want to do it. Well, everybody else has to do it. So too bad, you got to do it. And when I see people looking at the floor and not watching themselves, I pause it and I say, what? Is this person not compelling enough? And without a doubt, it makes me able to be the nicest guy ever because I just ask questions. Sometimes I'll pause it when they're really boring and just look at them and say, what do you think? And they're like, oh, good God. Oh, this is terrible. I'm so boring. Okay, we could do better, but you have to know what it was like, because when you're in your own body, it's way more interesting because you get to talk.
Sure.
Which is a big reason why I do interactive exercises with all the groups that I talk to, because they get to do something. They got to turn with their partner and customize something.
Hey, let's take a video commercial here now.
Okay.
Before I can keep going on and on and on, but So if a trade association or a professional society executive is watching this and they're thinking, oh my God, I got to get this guy. I really need some help. So how do people get a hold of you? And how do they get your books? And this is in the raw, unedited, what we'll call the shameless self-promotion section.
And I'm too busy. I'm sorry. I can't work with any of your associations. I'm trying to build some excitement. No, basically, if they go to jesstodtfeld.com,
Spell it.
I'm sure it's somewhere on this page around.
Spell it.
Yeah, JESSTODTFELD. But if you Google it, it'll come up for misspellings. And that's my speaker site. And really, I have programs for speaking to the media, how everybody can do a better job, even if we're talking about bloggers and internet media. Today, Ed is internet media.
Yes.
This was seen by you, all of you who are watching right now. So this counts, right? Yeah. So we have speaking to the media, which is, I actually been titling it Media Secrets, just like the book.
Yes.
You can, Media Secrets book if you want to get one of those books, or you could just reach out to me. But also I have programs on publicity. I set that Guinness record, which is somewhere over my shoulder over there.
Yes.
And certain groups want to know, how can we better interact with the media? Okay. So there's a lot. And then on the crisis side, I call it Weather Any Media Storm.
Okay.
And I have longer programs, shorter programs, depending on people's events. And then on the speaking and presenting side, I usually, for all of these, I always find out what would best serve your members anyway. What are they really dealing with? I don't want to talk about things that are not relevant. So I try to practice what I preach. But I have a program called Speak.
Odd concept.
What a crazy concept. Sometimes privately, I will, maybe in scheduling, I should have had more time for that. I better practice what I preach. I told my kids, how to deal with it, how to, think ahead and try not to be late. And I'm like, I just messed that one up. So yeah. we try to be, practice what we preach. So Speak to Close, which is where presentation techniques and sales techniques merge.
Oh, okay.
And that one has been pretty hot over the last couple of years for people who, are enrolled, even if you're selling ideas, and of course other ones under that banner of presentation. So yes, the shameless, look me up, and if you Google me, other stuff, my other sites will come up, or my training site, which is just a longer version of.
As you're talking about that, it just kind of hit me. There's a lot of associations out there that are like associations, like, for instance, distribution associations, personal services associations. And these people, their members, God, they need better sales training, or they need continual sales training. Right. So you have programs that show presentation skills for sales training also?
So in the way I see it is, they've had some sort of sales training along the way. Okay. Something's still not perfect, which is probably how they present themselves. So I'll talk about some of those techniques they've heard, but I show them, don't tell anybody who's watching, but I purposely do some things wrong that are not as compelling.
Okay. And
then I follow with something compelling, and then I wait a little while, and I quiz people on what they thought. Okay. So sometimes they're like, whoa. And I also quiz people on how memorable certain sections were. So I have something that I do where I do what I call a data dump. Most people who do a presentation, they just give facts and details, and no one remembers any of it. And I could just tell people that, or I could list off stuff from my bio, and I do that, and I actually see people just kind of do this, and then I follow with a story about a public speaking situation that happened years ago. I did stand-up comedy, and some guy was going to throw something at my face, and then 15-20 minutes later, when I quiz them, they barely remember the things in my bio, and it proves that point, but they remember with ridiculous 100% accuracy minute details about the guy's face, the color hat that he was wearing, meaning he had wrinkles in his face, lines with dirt in the lines, and all these things that happened, the exact town that it took place. It's ridiculous. Wow. So everybody has this aha moment of, okay, Jess was showing us along the way the technique. And if they saw it work, go try it. And then they get to pair up. So they try something on somebody, and they're like, whoa, I can do it too.
Yeah.
This is really great. So the more I get people to do, the happier they are.
Mhm.
So
That's
it's
awesome.
pretty cool.
That's awesome. Hey, Jess, I want to say, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on to Raw and Unedited and sharing your insight, tips, tactics with association executives. And let me just give you the parting shot. So, is there any question I forgot to ask? Is there any burning thing that you want to share with the group? This is kind of like the softball that I should have given you at the beginning.
Oh, it's all good. And when I train people, I say, look, if they give that to you, you don't have to say. If you say thanks, no, I'm good. You've lost out on an opportunity. But the way my mind works is I want to support this group. The way you support them. Thank you for. I watched a lot of these, and I know your commitment to the associations. The way your commitment is to our association, and the charity work that you do, which is so important. We have a good time, but we're I'm saying we, because I feel good I'm giving something, but you put all this time into making that happen. So first off, thank you for the work that you do.
Thanks.
The main thing I would have for the people who are tuning in is, look, you want your association to be amazing, or you wouldn't even be watching this, you wouldn't care, and you wouldn't have made it even to this part here. And think about what your association needs. So certainly for me, under the banner of what I do, if you're speaking to the media, make a commitment to either get more media attention, better media attention, or use it to drive more attendance or membership. You can absolutely do that. I call it converting interviews. Mm-hmm. And the same thing for speeches and presentations. Are they converting? When you go out there and talk to people, even if it's a 5-minute or 2-minute pitch of, hey, all of you would benefit from being a part of our association. Mm-hmm. Are you doing what you need to do? So be a student of learning these things and learning getting better. Mm-hmm. and go and do it. I mean, you guys are here. Continue to support your organization.
Very good.
I appreciate you all for tuning in, by the way. And you making it to, what's going through my mind is, if you made it to this point, you actually care about what you do. So, keep that bar high.
Is this the point where I say goodnight, Gracie?
Good night, Gracie.